Welcome to the Endline After Hours. Tonight, we're making a stop at forgiveness. And I think forgiveness is one of those words we hear all the time, but we don't always stop to ask ourselves, what does it actually mean? Because sometimes forgiveness sounds simple. Just forgive, let it go, move on. But what happens when the person who hurt you never apologized? What happens when the person you need to forgive is yourself? And what happens when you forgive someone but you don't want them back in your life? So tonight, we're going to sit with forgiveness from a few different levels because forgiveness isn't always about what someone else deserves. Sometimes it's about what you deserve to be free from carrying. How do you forgive someone who never apologized? Because I think this is where forgiveness gets complicated. Sometimes we're waiting for an apology because we believe the apology is what will finally allow us to heal. We want them to acknowledge what they did. We want them to say, I hurt you. I was wrong. You didn't deserve that. And honestly, sometimes they never say it. Sometimes they don't think what they did was wrong. Sometimes they know exactly what they did and simply don't care enough to take responsibility for it. And that can leave you stuck because now you're waiting for closure from the very person who created the wound. But what if forgiveness doesn't require participation? What if forgiveness can happen without the apology? That doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean you pretend it didn't happen. And it definitely doesn't mean you have to put yourself back in a position where they can hurt you again. It means you stop making your healing dependent on whether they ever become the person you needed them to be. Sometimes forgiveness sounds like, I accept that you may never apologize, and I'm still choosing not to carry this forever. And that's powerful. Now, let's switch the direction because sometimes the person we're angry with isn't somebody else, it's ourselves. And self forgiveness can be incredibly difficult, especially when you look back with the knowledge you have now. You think, why did I allow that? Why didn't I leave? Why did I react that way? Why did I make that decision? Why didn't I know any better? But here's the thing, you are judging an earlier version of yourself with information that version of you didn't even have. You know what you know now because you lived through it. You learned. You experienced consequences. You grew. So sometimes forgiveness means looking at your younger self, even if it was just yesterday, and saying, I wish you knew then what I know now, but I understand why you made the choices you made. That doesn't mean we don't take accountability. Accountability is extremely important, but accountability and self-hatred are not the same thing. You can say, I was wrong. I hurt someone. I made a bad decision. I should have handled that differently. And still say, I deserve the opportunity to become better. You don't have to keep punishing yourself for a lesson you've already learned. And this one needs to be said clearly. Forgiveness is not the same thing as reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still have boundaries. You can forgive someone and never speak to them again. You can forgive someone and decide they no longer get access to you. But forgiveness doesn't automatically restore trust. Trust is built through behavior, and reconciliation requires two people. You can forgive somebody all by yourself, but you cannot rebuild a relationship by yourself. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is forgive someone from a distance, not because they earned their way back into your life, but because you don't want their actions taking up permanent space inside of you. And that's an important distinction. Forgiveness doesn't mean, please come back. It can simply mean, I'm no longer allowing what happened to control where I go from here. Now, here's the question I really want you to sit with. Does forgiveness happen once, or does it happen over and over? I think sometimes we expect forgiveness to be one single moment. You forgive and then you're done. But what happens when that memory comes back? What happens when something reminds you of it? What happens when you're having a good day and suddenly that old hurt crosses your mind? Does that mean you didn't forgive? Not necessarily. Maybe forgiveness is something you practice. Maybe there are moments when you have to release the anger again. Maybe you have to remind yourself, I already decided I'm not carrying this. And maybe tomorrow you have to make that decision again. And maybe the day after that, you make that decision again. And that's okay. Healing isn't always a straight line. Sometimes forgiveness is a destination you keep choosing to return to, not because the person deserves unlimited chances, but because you deserve unlimited chances to be free. So, wherever you are tonight, I want you to ask yourself, who am I waiting to apologize? What am I still blaming myself for? Am I confusing forgiveness with reconciliation? And maybe most importantly, what would I finally be able to put down if I decided I don't have to carry it anymore? Because forgiveness isn't always about forgetting. Sometimes forgiveness is remembering without allowing the memory to own you. And speaking of turning pain into something different, I want to tell you about my book that just released, Meals I Made Instead of Falling Apart. This book came from a very real place. There are moments in life when you don't necessarily have everything figured out. You may be grieving, you may be healing, you may be angry, you may be disappointed. You may not even know what the next version of your life looks like just yet. But sometimes you still have to eat, you still have to get up, you still have to find a way to take care of yourself in the middle of everything you're already carrying. And that's what Meals I Made Instead of Falling Apart represents to me. It's about finding little ways to keep choosing yourself. So if you're on your own healing journey and you want something tangible that reminds you that you can create something beautiful even in difficult seasons, check out Meals I Made Instead of Falling Apart. Because sometimes healing doesn't look like having all the answers. Sometimes it looks like making yourself a meal and deciding you're going to keep going. The link will be below. It is available on Amazon in hardcover and paperback. And maybe what forgiveness is sometimes, it's not pretending it didn't happen. It's not saying it didn't hurt. It's not giving everyone access to you all over again. It's deciding that what happened to you doesn't get to decide who you become. You can acknowledge it, learn from it, you can grieve from it, and eventually you can put it down. Thank you for riding with me tonight. This has been the N Line After Hours. I'll see you at the next stop.